When we last left Kristina Wong, she was at the infamous San Quentin prison, nervously standing in a classroom full of convicts. What happens next? Stay tuned. So how long do you think it took you to actually calm down enough to where you could do your performance? Or were you like completely anxiety filled while your performance was starting?
I don't think I ever calmed down. I think what helped was like, well, I get nervous when I do shows. So whatever I do to prepare for a show and just treat this like an audience, I do it. And so what I decided to perform was an excerpt from my show, Wong Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And Wong Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it's a show I don't perform anymore, but you can watch it online, rent it on Vimeo if you want to see it. It's a show that I premiered in 2006 and went on to tour on and off for 8 years. It's a show that looks at the high rates of depression and suicide among Asian American women. And basically the start of the show is me introducing myself as Kristina Wong. And basically the whole sort of conceit of that show is that the issue of depression and suicide among Asian Americans is a very taboo topic, much like going to prison is a very taboo topic with Asian Americans. And we tend to fictionalize if we're not doing well, and we tend to have fictitious ideas of how she's making a lot of money. She's very happy. She's doing well, right? Like mental health is something we just don't talk about, at least in my family. And so the character of Kristina Wong in Wong Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest basically embodies that sort of denial and that fiction. Everything's fine. I'm fine. This show's about depression and suicide, but it's not about me. It's about other women outside the Wong family, right? And so basically I performed the start of the show, which is a monologue about how to watch this show and me assuring the audience, oh no, it's all fiction. Say it with me, fiction. Yes. So any reference to me or the use of the word I or my or our, it's just my way of personalizing research on other women outside the Wong family. So it's very meta, the very meta kind of intro. Wasn't sure if it was going to go over, but I was able to use like the chalkboard in the room to draw my little dramatic arc of fiction diagram thing, which is how the actual show is charted along the arc of fiction. And the whole show, Kristina Wong is basically unraveling. The character of Kristina Wong, like literally my sweater unravels, the set starts to fall apart, like everything starts to fall apart in the show. And then every time we check in with the dramatic arc of fiction, we find ourselves at the crisis. So like I'm wearing this cat sweater. And because I can't actually wear the costume sweater that I have for the show, which is rigged to fall apart, I snuck in one prop, which was a piece of yarn rigged into the sweater that I pull out. It shows that the basically my sweater is unraveling, the character's unraveling, right? And the guys are just sort of watching me, and they're just transfixed and super focused at their desks. It's not the reaction that I was afraid they would have, which is like, this is stupid, we're going to kill you. Like that did not happen. It would take one guy to laugh and then they would all laugh, right? Like as a cue, they could all laugh. I don't know that they totally understood everything, but the thing that I kept hammering over and over again, at least that gets hammered on in that excerpt of the show, is that we have really high rates of depression and suicide. So I think where it sort of more came together is after I did it, big applause. Wow, great. Like they were so focused the way I never get audiences like this, obviously, but like they didn't have cell phones to be distracted by. I was the only entertaining thing that they might have seen in weeks, right? And I was a human being and not like the TV in the prison. Yeah, so I think where it really kind of came together was the Q&A after, where I sort of talked about, well, this is what the show is about. It's about the shame of this topic. It's about how maybe mental health issues are proliferating in our community because our elders are so embarrassed to show that something's going wrong. And somehow we were able to tie that in to the shame that maybe Asian Americans also feel when they where they're affected by mass incarceration. And remember one guy a well-meaning question, but he was like, well, why did our families immigrate here if we'll have such high rates of suicide when we get here? And I'm like, well, we were running from war and we weren't really thinking like of those things. We'd figure it out when we got here. But like, I think that's where I was able to really kind of connect is the way I experience the issues of depression and feeling overpressured and the model minority myth is not necessarily what's affected this particular group of guys. These were not necessarily guys who were pressured to be doctors and they, flipped out. These were people who were like gang members or didn't have parental support and fell through the cracks. And getting a B was not like the worst thing in the world. Like there were like many issues that led them to making the decisions that they made that landed them in prison, right?
But we do exist.
We do exist, yes. Yeah, not everyone's a Kern Kim in prison. Kern Kim is an exception. But like, but yeah, so that's where it sort of came together. And then I did a workshop with them, and all I could really kind of do was like pull 3 chairs out and do improv, like very simple improv exercises. And one was called Park Bench, and it's like one guy sits on the park bench and has like a tick, and then whoever joins them has a new tick, and then everyone gains the tick, and then someone leaves, and they were like enjoying it way too much. Like they were screaming, "We needed that laugh today! Oh my god, so good! Oh my god, we needed to laugh. There's a lockdown. This is so fun!" And I'm like, "Wow, this is incredible." There was a break, like a little 5-minute break for the guys to like, I guess, relieve themselves or whatever. They all came back right on time. I've never seen anything like this before. And I think also the guard comes in to do a count and stuff, but I was like, wow. Even when I have guest taught classes or whatever, the kids are always straggling in, like on their phones, distracted. Like they were like, right back. I would say at the end of the improv exercise, I kind of forgot that I was in a prison. Like I just felt like, oh, I'm just in teaching mode. And
you're just around regular people.
I'm just around regular people who are living in the consequences of things. So it's a time to say goodbye. And the guys are so appreciative. They're more appreciative than some of the colleges I've been to. They're like, "Thank you so much for coming. How do I let my family and friends know about you? They can find you on the web, right?" Yeah. And then I'm talking to this one guy. And I think he told me, so I went to the all-girls high school in San Francisco, and I believe he told me he went to the all-boys high school. And so now I'm really like, whoa, did I know you? Wait, what? And he's talking to me about how they want to have like a comedy troupe and could I come and help them? And part of me is like, yes, I want to help you. But it's like, I also don't live there and I can't commit to that sort of time. And then I am looking at him and I can't think anything because I'm just looking at him and thinking, oh my God, this guy is so hot. Holy shit, do I have a thing for prison guys right now? What is happening? Kristina, I'm like slapping my own face, like internally, like what am I doing? So, I mean, these are just moments I'm having at the end of this hour. I don't think I have a thing for prison guys. Just FYI, thing for nerds.
Well, hey, that's you're also at an emotionally weak moment, so who knows what was going through your head.
What was happening, but I was just like, what's happening? I didn't know this was a thing I could have. So, normally when people leave my shows or classroom, I think, thank you for coming. Thank you for being there. But you don't say that to people in prison, right? If it was up to them, they would not want to be in prison just to catch my excerpt of my show in a classroom with no props and my park bench improv exercise, right? So I just say, good luck to you. Good luck to you. And that's like a conscious thing that I have to keep processing is, wow, they're still going to be here. They're going to sleep here. They're going to be here. They'll be here for years, maybe the rest of their lives. One thing at the Q&A, I think that in the discussion, there was one moment in the discussion that stuck out to me. There's one guy, he was Chinese. You could tell he was born in China. He actually apologized for his English. He's like, I'm sorry, my English, I had to learn English here. And that was like a trip, like, wow, he's been here so long. And I was like, don't apologize. It's really good. But that, like just really just kind of processing just how long people have been in the space. Also, like, wow, they're just so quiet right now. This is totally not what I thought this would be. Like, oh wow, people have levels and layers and aren't always 1000% that the most terrible decision of their life all the time. I'm not saying they're innocent. I'm not trying to minimize the pain of their victims, but I think that that's what I was sort of just really sitting with, was that there was sort of this that we could be talking about something else in the room, and then there's this tacit, terrible reason that has brought everyone here to the space.
So when you leave and you really reflected on your day and your experience inside San Quentin, I mean, you talked about the fact, that these aren't monsters, these are just people. How did you process that when you got home?
Well, Flynn actually helped do some of the processing, and he's like, so most of the guys leave, and he's like, okay, so what do you take from today, and what do you leave with you? And basically the kind of check-in questions that CFOs of nonprofits do with their staff. Like, what did you enjoy? What could be made better? What do you take with you? And I was like, and he was so calm. And I was like, I don't even remember what I said, but I just remember being more struck, like, wow, they pay people big bucks to facilitate the way this guy is facilitating right now. But, I was just sort of like, wow, this is so interesting. Not only are there this many Asian Americans in this prison, and this is just the ones that showed up to this group, but they're kind of funny, and they actually have all these other amazing skills that the world outside will never get to see. Like, Fun is an incredible facilitator. A lot of these guys are like, they have incredible. There's one thing that we joke about now is a lot of guys who've been in prison are actually really good leaders. They've led gangs. They've led, they've masterminded insane things, but those skills can also be used in other ways. So we say goodbye and we're headed out, and the first guy who was in the room when we were setting up is walking out, and he says, have a good trip home. And he's like headed towards where the cell blocks are. And it's just so weird to me because we're just out in the yard, and part of me is just sort of like, wait, just come with us. Like, we're like, it just feels so strange that, oh, right, he knows that we get to leave and he doesn't get to leave. Yeah, so that whole drive home, that whole night home, like I had friends who in San Francisco were asking me to come out that night, and I was like, no, I just have to write and reflect on what I just witnessed. And I don't even know how to describe what I felt, but a lot of it was just feeling very sad that this is sort of kind of the only recourse to punish people after the fact, is to just take all these people, separate them from their families, and put them in prison. And again, I'm not trying to minimize the pain of the victims or declare that, oh, these people are actually innocent, but it just seems just such a strange way to get towards justice, right? Is to just lock people up. But it was also really human in ways that it made me have to really consider like all the fear I had and how that fear just turned more to curiosity and laughter and just wonderment. I very much grew up kind of like to believe in punishment and consequences. My mother played this terrible trick on me and my brother when I was younger. She said, if you don't stop fighting, I'm going to call the police. And she pretended to call the police and said, okay, now the police are going to come get you because you won't stop fighting. We believed her, right? Like we very much lived in this world where if you do this, you will be punished in this specific way. Don't be bad. And there was no nuance to it, right? And so this was like, this whole visit to San Quentin was such a moment of like nuance.
So I actually went into San Quentin in 2015 for a program that was sponsored by Roots called AAPI's Behind Bars. It was the very first time that we had a national convening dealing solely with Asian Pacific Islander incarceration issues. And here I was, only home 2.5 years, and managed to get approved to go into the prison. I mean, there was a big question about whether we'd be even allowed in, but we applied and we were cleared, even though we weren't supposed to be. But those of us who got approved, we just went in and said, screw it. We got
That was
approved.
your first time back into a prison?
Yes, and that was the first time that active parolee lifers were allowed back into a prison, even though we were let in by mistake. But they realized just how much of a positive impact it
Mm,
had to the population.
yeah.
Seeing people who they knew just a year, 2 years before back inside, and it brought so much hope. I mean, there was one gentleman who knew me from the prison that I was at in San Diego. And literally, when it came around time to do introductions, he like jumped up and said, Kern, I don't know if you remember me, but I knew you. I would see you going to work every day. It's so good to see you here. It's so good that you're out and doing good work. And so that brought me a lot of reassurance that my work in advocacy was the right decision. But it also brought a lot of hope to people inside because these reforms were just starting to happen and they didn't have good examples to look up to. But yet, here we were. It was me, one of the co founders of API Rise, Duck Ta, he was also there. It was really surreal because I remember being one of the people who would have attended your performance. And I remember saying goodbye to the volunteers and walking back into the cell block. And
Yeah.
when I left San Quentin, it was really painful for me because at that point, I was only home 2.5 years. And
Wow, you
there
went
were,
back so soon after.
I'm,
I would feel like I would never want to go back
yeah, I mean,
willingly.
you would think, but there were a bunch of people there who I knew, who I had done time
Mm.
who were with me when I paroled. And it was really funny because, like, I'm walking across the yard and someone yelled, "Hey, look, there's Kern. I did time with him at Donovan." And I'm like, "Shut up. They don't know that I'm a parolee." but,
Wow.
uh, but yeah, it was really, I mean, I saw my last cellmate before I paroled was there. And
Wow. But
it
they
was,
transferred them to the better prison, I
yeah,
guess,
they
right?
did.
That's
And he was from San Jose, so obviously he was close to home. But still, it was just so surreal seeing people and people who, they see me coming in wearing, street clothing, not
mm.
realizing who I am. But then they just look at my face and they're like, "What? What are you doing here?" so, but yeah, doing the program, speaking to them, and the energy, being able to not just feeling the energy from that outside people would bring into the prison, as a
Yeah.
distraction to the everyday stress of life,
Mm.
but, so feeling what you felt when you left, thinking, wow, this is nice. It was great to be able to connect with some people, but being able to connect with people that I know from a totally different side, from as being someone from the outside.
Yeah.
It was painful, but it was also kind of uplifting in a way because it really gave people some hope as to
Yeah.
like, wow, here I am coming back in,
Mm.
saying, hey, things are changing, man.
Yeah.
You actually do have an opportunity to be home.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine willingly going back. Like, even though that's the one and only time I've been inside a prison, it's not that I'm not like anxious. I don't know. I can't say that I'm anxious to go back because it's just so emotionally overwhelming, and um it's hard for my brain not to go in a million places and just go, this is so weird. This is so weird that this is how we punish people. It's strange. I'm not saying it's that there can't be consequences, but it's just so weird. It's just so weird.
There are people I know who are formerly incarcerated who would never step foot in a prison again. It's just too
Yeah.
traumatic for them. They want to put that behind them.
Yeah.
I can't, I can I can imagine that it's similar in some ways for people who've never done time to go into prison and then realize just how much it destroys what they've been taught the worldview is on the justice system.
Mm.
And that's why you see some people who become super active in the justice reform movement saying, this isn't right. This isn't what I thought the justice system was supposed to be. But then you have others where it's too painful to even think about
Hmm.
because especially if they had a relative who was incarcerated.
Hmm.
So, but people always end up doing what helps them in their own ways. And clearly, that experience for you led you to join up with API Rise. And we're thankful that you have.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of, for me, it's still navigating um, how to approach punishment and prisons and I mean, I basically went on a deep dive of Asian Americans in prison. A lot of that information is on Asian Prisoner Support Committee's website. Um, they do a lot of data collecting on stuff, and I just became really interested in like just the surrealness of what like it was already hard enough for me to go to LA for college and adjust to that culture shock. Like I can't imagine being born in China, and then you come here getting pulled into the gang, you don't know English, you go to prison, you have to live out your life, like just the unrealness of all that. Like I just I couldn't stop thinking about it, and how I was just sort of just sitting in this aftermath sort of space. Yeah, surreal is the word, though. Like the prison is just such a surreal, like, that we decide to reactively deal with something that can't be reversed by putting someone's life in a box. And I don't know, just it's what are the other recourses? I've been trying to understand things. I've been trying to do research about restorative justice and prison abolition. I won't say that I identify as a prison abolitionist. I'm still trying to understand what that looks like. I just finished reading a book on it. I'm still like, can this be achieved? I don't know. And a lot of the reason why I come to doing this podcast and this work is trying to understand what my relationship is to forgiveness. I'm Chinese and competitive, and at least raised to be very competitive, and that I think fundamentally made me very unforgiving and vengeful, and I very much was raised to believe like it's a meritocracy. The world's if you get good grades, you'll get this and that, and I learned no, people get there are things that logically might happen if you do the right thing, and then there's a lot of rules that don't make any sense about how things turn out the way they do. So that's basically what brings me to this. But I could not stop thinking about that San Quentin experience, and it was only a few years after that where I met Paul Jung at a fundraiser in LA and was just having a conversation. He was telling me I have started the support group called API Rise, where folks who are getting out, they have a place to go. And I was like, oh, my life was like, I still can't stop thinking about this time I went to San Quentin, and that's how I started going to meetings. Of course, I forgot that by the time Paul got around to inviting me, what API Rise was. I just knew that I said I would go, and didn't realize till I saw all these guys with big old muscles and tattoos and very specific facial hair. I was like, oh, this is the incarcerated group. Like I thought it was an all-purpose Asian empowerment group that I agreed to go to. Anyway.
Well, not everyone was big muscled and tattooed.
Yeah.
So.
Not Kern. Kern had that ally energy with those skinny limbs.
Mm. So, any last thoughts about your experience at San Quentin?
I can say that I'm very grateful that I was invited to do that and that I said yes. And I am so grateful for this experience that took something that I was really terrified about, and to go from fear to sort of a curiosity and wanting to connect more that's a huge sort of pivot in human emotions. So there's that. I think now that I do this work and I'm on the board of API Rise and making this podcast with you, and now we're going to work on a third round of our theater project, From Number to Name. I think it's always an interesting thing when people always say to me, so what do they do? What do they do to get in? And I'm like, that's like the last thing I ask now. It used to be also that kind of same curiosity. What do they do? How do they get to prison? What do they do so bad? And I don't know. I'm just I learned from Terry Park. He had told me this. He's like, don't ask them what they did. They don't want to talk about it, and they have this whole life outside of that they want to be living in as well. And it's not so much denying that this happened, but when you're in prison, you're living in the aftermath of that decision and those consequences every day. And I feel like there's so many more interesting things than the crime you did, and so many more things to give to the world. So yeah, so that's a big transition for me, that I went from looky Lou curiosity lady to what Kern do, to open to the idea that people have other things to contribute to the world, which is crazy because I'm a vengeful, hateful bitch. So this is crazy that I that this one prison visit did that for me. Yeah, and I guess I also find myself like when I meet folks who are formerly incarcerated, I think 10 years ago I would have been like, what they do. What are they in for? And I'm now just more interested in like how they live their lives, how they maintain their relationships. Like to me, that's how they find peace every day. Like that's way more interesting to me than what's the most terrible thing they've done.
The morbid curiosity is gone.
Yeah.
Now that the people who've been impacted by the justice system, that they've been humanized in your mind.
Yeah. You've been humanized, Kern.
Yes, I have. Well, we appreciate having you on the board at API Rise.
Yeah, I love it.
We appreciate that you're coming out and supporting. I mean, it was very interesting meeting you for the first time. It was very interesting coming to your performances and hearing your stories. But it's been also very, very heartwarming to know that people can change their views of those of us who have been justice impacted. So thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode of Killing Your Number, co-hosted by me, Kern Kim, and Kristina Wong. And Kristina has a book out, Auntie Kristina's Guide to Asian American Activism, published by Beaming Books. It's a colorful, witty, and vibrant book for kids of all ages. Order a copy today. Our guest producer today is Janessa Jaffe. Our intern is Jade Faircloth. Music is by Jason Chu and Leo Jia. We are produced by API Rise. You can learn more about our work at api-rise.org. You can also follow more episodes of Killing Your Number at killingyournumber.com or on Instagram at killingyournumberpodcast.